Hey, what's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about the pinky, this absolute bastard, and what you should do with it, and why it's so annoying and so problematic, and also why the way the pinky is presenting itself when you're playing can show you that there's stuff maybe wrong or stuff going really good. Okay, all right. Today I'm going to talk all about the pinky, what you should do with it, what you shouldn't do with it, what your pinky tells you about you as a person and a classical guitar player, and I do mean that quite literally. Guess what? Guess what color? Pink. All right, because the word pink is in pinky. So we're gonna go through all the different levels of pinky dysfunction, starting with the worst one, which is the dreaded pinky anchor. Okay, it looks like this. When I started playing like finger picking, playing like acoustic steel string, I used to have an anchor. So there's a few reasons why this is bad. Number one is it really limits your ability to move around. You know, if I wanted to, for example, play the ring finger on the D string, that's almost impossible, right? And I'd have to drag that anchor right up into the high string there in order to do that. And still, it would be very, very uncomfortable. Versus bringing the hand all the way up here, right? That's much, much easier. People tend to do this because in the beginning their hand feels unstable and they haven't really developed a good sense of positioning of the hand where it should be resting, which is right here on the top part of the guitar here, on the forearm there, right? So a lot of people start out like this with the anchor thing, and it's a bad idea. Another reason why it sucks is that it's just kind of like you're kind of mechanically disadvantaged if you have your hand like this, right? You're just having that ligament way out here. It's just a little bit odd. I would much rather your hand be kind of more fluid and for the pinky to kind of relax and naturally follow what the other fingers are doing, specifically the ring finger, because these two fingers are kind of tied. All right, so don't anchor. If you are anchoring, you need to stop, okay? And the way to do that is just to get used to resting your arm here. This is enough stability. This is all the stability that you would ever need, right? Look at my knuckles. I can keep them perfectly still. So you just ultimately have to learn how to calibrate your fingers to touch the strings in the right way to keep them there, okay? So, but you do not need that anchor. So I'm gonna say about 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago at this point, I've been playing guitar for a long time, and what I used to do is this. I used to have my pinky out like this. Now, is that a bad thing? Yes, it is a bad thing. Now, you can still be a fantastic player with a pinky out like this, but it's not really the pinky that's the problem, right? Because the pinky's just out here. It's not doing anything. We're not playing with it. We're not animals here. We're classical guitar players, okay? We don't play with our pinky. That's disgusting. But like it being out here, it's not going to get in the way or anything. It doesn't matter. You look a little classy when you have the pinky out there. That's a nice benefit because you're definitely not classy, and you would like people to think that you are. The issue with it is simply that it is a visual representation of tension. So in order to bring the pinky out like this, you have to, essentially contract muscles up here in order to pull that finger outwards, right? If I tell you to relax your hand from this position, if you put your hand in this position and I tell you to relax, this is what should happen. If I say relax the fingers, right? The pinky, goes in line with the other fingers. And I think that sort of neutral position of the right hand, where you're completely relaxed, is a really good sort of guideline. You want your hand to feel as close as possible to a completely neutral position, where the fingers are completely dead, right? The fingers and the muscles and the palm and everything are completely dead. If you let your wrist die, this will happen too. So your wrist has to be active to an extent, but we want the other fingers to be as relaxed as they can possibly be. One of the things that can happen, especially to beginners, is that when you are ingraining a movement pattern, there are other muscle activations that can come along for the ride if you just happen to encode them into the pattern. It's almost like a little virus in the movement pattern that's completely unnecessary, but just for whatever reason you started doing it that way, and before you know it, it's been a year, and your pinky sticks out every single time you try to access the ring finger, for example. It's not necessary to the motion, right? It's not necessary that my pinky comes out in order to generate force coming this way with the ring finger, but because I did it forever, now it's just part of my movement pattern. That isn't to say that like it's not fixable. All the stuff is completely fixable. Obviously, it just takes some attention, and it takes some time, but not even a ton of time, but a lot of attention. One of the things I see all the time is the pinky being lifted up like this, and this is a particularly bad one. Okay, so just do this with your hand. Feel what this feels like, and then relax. There's a lot of tension that's required in order to do this, and when people start doing this early on and they bake it into their movement patterns, it can be pretty tricky to get rid of it. Not impossible by any means. It's completely possible. You just have to learn what it feels like to relax the pinky as much as possible. And so the real answer to what should the pinky be doing is the pinky should be as turned off as it can possibly be. That's it. That's the guiding principle. So one of the things I actually did many, many years ago is I taped these two fingers together because I was trying to get rid of this sort of like pinky flare thing. It was really kind of difficult to get rid of. So it was kind of forcing my pinky to be in line with this one. And that can kind of help you develop the feel and to get these puppies moving together. But ultimately, pulling the pinky down with force and keeping it there is, I think, just as bad as leaving it out, because what we're trying to get rid of is tension. Now, the pinky being out, or your pinky being lifted in this way, is not bad because the pinky is out. It's bad because there's muscles contracting that we don't want contracting, because ultimately that will limit the fluidity and freedom and control of the rest of our fingers. It tends to be the case that muscle tension just kind of spreads. So the solution is not to force the pinky into place, okay? The solution is to relax the pinky as much as we can, and then feel what it feels like to move the fingers, letting the pinky do whatever the hell it's going to do when it's completely relaxed. That's the goal, okay? And that concept applies to pretty much everything. Especially when it comes to right-hand stuff, right? I want to make sure everything is turned off when I move my index finger. Feel how that feels. Okay, feels like this, right? Why doesn't it feel like that when I do it on the strings? Well, it's because I'm used to really trying to control the finger a ton so that, I actually do a good pluck. A pluck is a pretty complex thing, right? It's really precise. Our finger has to be in a really precise spot on that flesh. And then if you're using nails, transition to the nails and come off of the nail in just the right kind of way with the right tone and everything. It's a really, really precise motion. But we don't want to compromise the relaxation aspect of it. And again, the pinky is just a manifestation of contracted muscles. What is relaxing? What is getting rid of tension? It's just turning muscles off that are on. That's all that means, right? So if you think about it like that, turning muscles off, okay, that can help you conceptualize at least like what you're doing, what's actually happening when you're relaxing. And again, one of my favorite ways to demonstrate this with students and get them to feel what their hand kind of should feel like is by doing what I call like air guitar, or like airplay, where the first step is just to have, relax your hand completely, right? So it's a dead fish. Maybe activate the wrist so that this is all straight, right? And then from here, make sure your fingers are totally dead, and then just like pluck inwards this way with the index finger and try to activate, from this joint a little bit, at least a little bit. Okay, without any of the other fingers tensing up. And it's okay if they move a little bit. It's okay if they come along for the ride. In fact, it's less tension to let the rest of the fingers come along for the ride just a little bit. You see my middle finger is kind of moving just a millimeter. The reason that's happening is because naturally the ligaments are going to pull on each other. Okay, versus if I try to keep that middle finger totally stationary and there's tension involved in creating that stationary middle finger, that's no good, okay? We really want things to be as relaxed as they can possibly be. So you want to try to do that with all of the fingers and get a feel for what that actually feels like. Okay, what does that actually feel like when I pluck in the air with minimal tension? Okay, then how do I take that feeling, that in the air feeling, and apply it to the string? And you'll find, especially if you've never done something like this, that your right hand feels completely different, and you'll mess up and it will be awkward. But if you can get yourself to move in this direction, ultimately you'll start weeding out layers and layers of tension in your playing, and it really pays dividends down the road. And if you're like an intermediate guitar player, for example, and you really want to get better way faster and you want to reach your ultimate potential, I think this relaxation thing, I think it's the biggest thing. And I say that as somebody who, like, I felt like I was plateaued for like 10 years, and then I actually made a videotape of myself trying to figure out what the hell's going on with my tremolo. Why do I keep on like accidentally hitting strings I don't want to hit? And I basically went on this whole journey of like just discovering that tension was the thing that was holding me back. And I think it's the thing that's holding most people back, actually. And that if you get better, if you try to improve your playing while keeping relaxation as kind of the pinnacle, that and kind of sound quality as the pinnacles, you will get way better, way faster. And you'll see, you'll start to, like I said, you'll shed layers of tension that you didn't even know you had, and you get closer and closer. Guitar playing gets closer and closer, just feeling like this, right? Almost no effort at all. Now, listen, I'm going to pitch a thing really quick. If you are an intermediate player, so this is not for total beginners, but if you've been playing for about a year and you really want to learn to incorporate this relaxation into your playing and play faster and better and more controlled than you ever have, and you want to get on that path with me, I'm actually making a technique course right now. It's not out yet. Okay, I'm still working on it, but I've started a bunch of the live elements of it. So I do some one-on-one calls with people. I do some group coaching calls and stuff. And if you want to get in on that early, there's a link down below in the description that you should click on, check out if you're at all interested in that kind of stuff and in this kind of stuff. Okay. So yeah, that's my take on the pinky. I was gonna say we should just cut them all off, but we actually don't want to do that because the pinky is a really good an indicator. It's a barometer or a metal detector for common tension that a lot of people end up building into their technique. So it's good that we have that pinky to show us, hey, if it's out like this, hey, if it's out like this, this is no good, and we have some work to do. And the good thing about having work to do and knowing that there's something wrong means there's a lot of growth in front of you because you can actually fix these things. And I'm telling you, when you do, guitar playing will feel a lot easier, a lot better, and you'll be much more consistent with it. Okay, so fix that pinky, dog. Quit sticking it out, dude. You're not that fancy. You're not fooling anyone. Okay, especially not me. All right, bye bye.